Strengths. A big strength that RBC has over other competitors is that it's a Canadian bank, meaning that it's very secure and safe. Canadian banks have the safest banks in the world based off soundness and security. This can attract many consumers as they want a branch who keep their money safe and risk-free. If the economy of Mauritius ever struggles or heavily contracts for more than 2 quarters, then RBC can hold on to their consumer savings and stay stable. Referring back to the 2008 financial crisis that affected the US market and therefore the world, Canada was one of the few banking systems where they actually held up and survived that crisis compared to the rest of the world. Therefore, Canada's banking system can attract new consumers within Mauritius. Another strength that RBC has is that Canadian tourists won't have any trouble choosing which bank to trust when landing in Mauritius, as they are already familiar with RBC as it's a Canadian bank, and so it won't be a hard choice for them. For weaknesses, RBC is not as globally popular compared to other banks such as Bank of America or Wells Fargo, as it operates only in Canada and some parts of the US. Therefore, it will be harder for RBC to attract new tourists or people who are not from Canada, as they are not familiar with the bank and would rather go to a bank that they are actually familiar with. At first, this may be difficult to start up stable revenue for the bank, as many people haven't put their full trust within RBC in like savings account and such. Although in the long run, as more and more people get used to them, RBC will start becoming a household name within the country if everything runs smoothly and further increasing profits. Onto the opportunities, RBC faces easier competition as there are only a limited number of banks in Mauritius, and a majority of them are weaker than RBC based on soundness, security, and offerings. Some of the top banks include Bank One, SBI, and Habib Bank Limited. Performing a benchmark, it was evident that RBC generated a higher revenue, better profits, and more valuable assets compared to these top-tier banks, so there should be no real problem for them to take over the financial market share and tourist revenue. Another great opportunity for RBC is that expanding to another market will help them gain more recognition within consumers and tourists, and therefore more people will know about it globally and soon put their full trust with RBC. As the bank is only operating in Canada, many people outside of the borders don't have much of an idea on how they operate or how secure they really are, and even the existence of the bank. Expanding to a new place will definitely help raise the brand recognition to people outside of Canada and will benefit the business greatly. Now, there are quite a few threats that may or may not be faced expanding to Mauritius. Firstly, a physical one is that there are some possibilities of a bank robbery. Looking into the Global Competitiveness Report, the first pillar of institutions, we could see that Mauritius is ranked quite poorly in ethics, corruption, and security. Data is collected from past experiences, and as RBC is one of the more profitable banks compared to the competition in the country, there may be a higher chance of a robbery on this bank. However, tourist destinations typically have more stable security, and as more of these branches will be located in these areas, RBC shouldn't worry too much about this threat. The other possibility is fraud, and that could occur anytime as well. Employees have too much power can cause fraud, with the opportunity is there for them. This could greatly tarnish the brand image of the company if found out by the general public, and consumers will no longer want to have some sort of business with RBC. Referring back to the competitiveness report and ethics and corruption, Mauritius ranks 47th compared to Canada at 18th, so we could see that there is a higher chance of fraud, and that this is something to really look out for. And finally, the threat of more competition expanding into Mauritius, such as CIBC or BMO banks, other Canadian banks, will give RBC a harder time to operate to their full potential.